staff is ready. Good for recording? Excellent, thank you. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Okay, I'd like to call the October 18th, 2021 regular council meeting to order and begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Kaitsi, Kwantlen, Semiahmoo, and Musqueam First Nations. Adoption of the October 18th, 2021 regular agenda. Before we consider adoption of the agenda, are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Seeing none, motion is that the October 18th, 2021 regular meeting agenda be adopted as circulated. Mover and a seconder, Councillor James, Councillor Pahal. All those in favor, that carries. Regular meeting minutes from September 27th, 2021. That the minutes of the regular meeting held on September 27th, 2021 be adopted as circulated. Are there any corrections? I got Councillor Wallace and Albrecht as movers and seconders. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Special pre-closed meeting minutes from October 4th, 2021. That the minutes of the special pre-closed meeting held on October 4th, 2021 be adopted as circulated. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Albrecht. Councillor James, any corrections? See none, call the vote. All those in favor, any opposed? That carries. Regular meeting minutes from October 4th, 2021. That the minutes of the regular meeting held on October 4th, 2021 be adopted as circulated. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Pahal, Councillor Albrecht, any corrections? Call the vote. All those in favor, any opposed? That carries. All right, we have a delegation here tonight. Mr. Chair TJ request changes to the secondary suite provisions in the zoning bylaw. Welcome, Mr. TJ, and you have 5 minutes to speak on your delegation, so just please come on up here to the mic. Thank you.
Respected Council and ladies and gentlemen, my name is Shetty J. I am over here regarding 19928 48th Avenue. I purchased this property on April 9th, 2001, and I'm a victim of fraudulent activities like the way you probably saw. My contract was supposed to be closing this deal was April 30th. However, the realtor made one addendum requesting that can you close this earlier, like April 9th, which I did. And after getting possession of my house, I received a letter from the city of Langley regarding saying that the secondary suite and everything, all the renovation has been done on this house without permission. So I did talk to, came to talk to the city, and the city has mentioned to me that they have given the previous owner a letter, so many communication with the realtor and the owner, and they're stating March 23rd, they have sent those letters. But there's one concern of mine was if the city, when they were keep on back and forthing the letter, they should have put a stop work order on the house. If they have done that, I would not have bought this place. And another thing is when the renovation was completed, previously owner, the city should go after the previous owner. And this is given so much stress to me, and the city bylaw allows the secondary suite only if the owner lives in the house, which is very old bylaw, 1976, as I look into it. And at that time, the houses used to be maybe $100,000 or less. But now the houses are $500,000 to or above. So there's no way for a newcomer, like I bought this house for my daughter, there's no way she can afford if she don't have a secondary suite in the house. So my request is that should be considered to reconsider to change that bylaw. And also, as the city requested to me, since this application happened and the letter came, I did remove the tenant, and I did remove all the fridges and stoves from the property, and was like to hear from you people. And right now, it's only 3 people are living, husband, wife, and their mother in the house.
Yes, through the mayor. Thank you, Mr. TJ. Just a couple of notes in response to your comments that the city became aware of a realty listing advertising 2 suites, and that's not permitted in our zoning bylaw. So one of our staff followed up with the realtor on March 10th to advise them, and then a letter went out to that. We typically don't put on stop work orders unless the work is underway. In this case, the work was already completed. We're not sure when, and the city received a complaint about having 2 suites on the site. We are doing a zoning bylaw update, a review with council, but my understanding is that the idea of having single-family homes that are owner-occupied with a suite is exactly that. It's so the owner is able to have a mortgage helper. At this point, we're not contemplating having 2 renters on site as part of that process.
Yeah.
And lastly, sorry, I was just going to say that our staff are following up with you in terms of helping you obtain a building permit to bring your suite up to code and make it happen for you.
Okay, so I'm willing to, second suite, I'm willing to take that suite out because I myself don't like it. So that garage, which is a turn, it will be, right now, if I tear down or something, because inside it's a very nicely kind of a floor, I rather use this one as a storage because also I can point out this house is way less square footage wise than it's supposed to be permitted on this lot. This is almost 9,000 square foot lot. So those are my concern. And I'd like to see those letters, which is between city and the realtor, so that I can stop them by reporting to the real estate, real estate companies, and also, take to them court. And if they allow me, instead of confidentiality, they give me all that letter between what they call counselor or previous owner, because why they did this thing, why they moved from 30th April to April 9th. I guess they received the letter as soon as they did this one, and I got caught. I was not sure anything. I was not concerned. Now, if I have done anything to the house, yes, I'm willing to do whatever it says. But this one is not a behind thing. My other person who's next to me, he has also same letter, and he bought 2 years ago this house, but the basement was built, I would say 8 to 10 years, which Brian Boskin has checked it. And on that one, so what he can do? He has to remove that one too. And on the other hand, let's say there's one house, the owner is living on top, but right now your bylaw is all, is doing according to your bylaw. He built that basement suite. Tomorrow I buy that thing. I am not living there, so that means I have to tear down that suite. Because if you take a look, I can guarantee you, there's about 30 to 40% house in your city, they all have suites. I have a 5, last month I visited because wherever is open house, I usually go there. And every one of them has. So what you gonna do?
Well, we appreciate you coming in and providing us with information and speaking to staff for sure. So, we ask that you continue to work with staff on your issue that you're dealing with. And, thank you for giving us stuff to consider for the reviewing of our bylaws and such. So everything you told us tonight, we will take that into consideration going forward because we are in the midst of doing our planning. So, those are great suggestions and we will take them into consideration and thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Martin, go ahead. She just has a quick question.
Thank you. I'm well aware of Mr. TJ's story. I spent a long time on the phone with him several weeks ago. In regards to the letters that the city wrote the previous owner, did I hear Mr. TJ say that he cannot have a copy of those because they're confidential?
Yes, through the mayor to Councillor Martin, excuse me. If Mr. TJ files a Freedom of Information request, we can provide those
Oh, freedom of
letters.
information, and he knows that?
We have made him aware of that, but
Okay,
we will work with Mr. TJ on that again. And in addition to that, our building staff are also following up with Mr. TJ. So I actually checked on the file today, and we are actually scheduled to follow up with him. So to help him get his suite up to code and everything ready for him. So we'll help him with that. Again, it's an unfortunate situation, but it is an issue between him and the realtor
right.
and the owner that sold him the house. That's something that an owner who's selling the house, they have a disclosure that they need to make, and that's between them.
And we're assuming this disclosure was not made at the time. And I understand it's between Mr. TJ and the realtor and the previous owner. And I have every confidence that staff is going to do what they can to assist Mr. TJ. The feeling that I had after spending a long time on the phone with Mr. TJ is that he's willing to compromise and do what he has to do. And I take note that in regards to the owner having to occupy the house, I explained to him why we did that. And maybe in the future, we can look at family members occupying the house instead of just the owners. So, but that's for a later date. But thank you very much for assisting Mr. TJ, and I hope it all works out at some point. So, Mr. TJ, if you put in a Freedom of Information, you can get a copy of those letters and go to the real estate board. Thank you.
As I said, I know staff has been working very hard and very diligently on this matter. And I've spoken to Mr. TJ as well. So we're gonna get him all the help we can, right? Yes, so thank you. All right, community spotlights. TransLink, Transport 2050. Vincent Gonzalez, Manager of Community Engagement, welcome. You have 10 minutes for your presentation. How are you?
Good, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. Alrighty. Well, thank you so much for having me here this evening and giving me the opportunity to provide an update on Transport 2050. For those of you that know, TransLink is currently in the process of working on a regional transportation strategy, and at the same time, Metro Vancouver is also working on their regional growth strategy, and so we've been working very closely with Metro Vancouver throughout their strategy planning and TransLink strategic plan. So just to give you just a bit of a background on the regional transportation strategy and looking forward to Transport 2050. For those of you that have been around for a while, you know that this is our second regional transportation strategy. The first one, Transport 2021, was first adopted in 1993. And the exciting news is that most of the plans that were identified in that first transportation plan are either complete or close to completion. And so Transport 2050 is really now looking at the project, services, and policies for transportation in Metro Vancouver for the next 30 years. And it's a shared policy between both the region, the municipalities, Metro Vancouver, and the province. We've divided the strategy up into 3 phases, and the first phase was completed in May to September 2019. The exciting part about the first phase of engagement was it was TransLink's largest ever public engagement process. We had just over 30,000 participants complete the survey, and we received almost 4,000 ideas in that first phase of engagement. The second phase of engagement just ran earlier this year in April to May, and it was in that phase of engagement that we received just over 5,000 completed surveys. And the goal was transformative actions. We've just recently launched phase 3, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a bit. And phase 3 is all about sharing a comprehensive draft strategy and seeking public feedback. So in phase 1, we really did a thorough engagement process. And we found out that people really value the region's natural assets, and that it's very important that their daily needs are close to them. Some of the concerns that they identified were housing affordability, road congestion, and climate change. And then we also realized people's top priority, including regular drivers, was the desire to expand and improve transit. Phase 2, as I mentioned, ran from April to May of this year. And the real purpose, the focus of phase 2 was to really take a pulse check on what we heard in phase 1. In this phase, we shared our draft goals, which there's 5 draft goals, and 3 specific action items. And we really wanted to hear from the public, are we on the right track? We realized that the topics were very complex, and that in order to get positive feedback, in order to really get people engaged, we had to provide really solid educational material and different entry points of information. So we did an extensive marketing approach, and we developed extensive discussion guides. We also realized that different demographics played a vital role in gathering feedback. In this phase of engagement, we focused on 5 goals: convenient, reliable, affordable, safe and comfortable, and carbon-free choices. And those are the 5 goals that were imperative to the design of Transport 2050. So, in the final strategy, we'll be using these goals to support the detailed targets. In phase 2, we also focused on 3 transformative actions. And the 3 transformative actions, as you can see here, are firstly, people first streets. And we really wanted to understand the demographic, the different perspectives from the different demographics from people across the region. We heard from people that the implementation and design are very important, and that factors such as accessibility, goods movement, and parking concerns need to be addressed. Rapid transit was also very important, and we shared 2 different perspectives. The first was a Network A, which is both a combination of above and below ground transit, and then Network B, which is primarily at street level transit. And we got very good feedback on both. Interestingly enough, though, we did see a slight higher level of support for Network B, the at grade level transit. Finally was the automated vehicles. Now, automated vehicles are still very new. They're still we're still learning lots about them as they become more and more prevalent in our region. And the feedback we got on this was actually fairly neutral. People were understanding that while they're important, there was still a lot of questions to be answered. So we're using the input from both phases 1 and 2, including specific demographic information that we've gathered to help inform the development of phase 3 of the regional transportation strategy. And it's very important as well that we factor in social equity in the regional transportation strategy. So this third and final phase of engagement is now live and will be closing at the end of the month. And in this phase of engagement, we're giving public and stakeholders an opportunity to provide feedback on either a summarized version of the regional transportation strategy or the full 100-page document. The engagement, unfortunately due to restrictions with COVID, is entirely online. But we're giving people an opportunity to provide their feedback either, as I said, in a short survey or a very detailed, a long survey. The detailed long survey is just over 100 pages with over 100 ideas. So it's really those transit enthusiasts that are really getting into the details and providing their feedback. During this public engagement process, we will be having 2 stakeholder workshops, 2 public open houses, and 3 elected official workshops. We'll be doing an extensive marketing push throughout the region, encouraging people to get involved and provide their feedback. And finally, we anticipate the regional transportation strategy to be shared and adopted by the mayors in early 2022. So I had 10 minutes. I'll wrap it up with that, and I'll ask, are there any questions that I can help provide answers to?
Thank you so much for that. I know you and TransLink staff have worked tirelessly at this, so I know the great work you're doing, so keep it up, and thank you for being here tonight. Rudy, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for coming out. Good to see you in person. Councillor Pahal and I attended your elected officials webinar, and yeah, we found it to be very worthwhile, I'm sure. I can't say that my ideas about drones or using the river for a transit corridor are currently in the plan, but it looks like you've got something to work with there, and so thanks for coming and for the work that you do, and keep your eyes and ears open, because I'm sure there's lots of good people with great ideas that you just haven't discovered yet.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Pahal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through the mayor to you. Yeah, thanks for coming out here to give your presentation and hang around for a few hours. It's really appreciated, because it is great when like TransLink comes out to talk to us. So I just wanted to first say thank you for doing that, because I know it is a bit of a, I know you're near, but I know for TransLink as an organization, it's like into the hinterlands. So thank you for doing that.
I wouldn't say that, but
But yeah, and also just like the 2050 strategy, not surprisingly completely aligns with our official community plan, whether it's the streets and walking, which we're trying to do, and obviously with SkyTrain coming here, it lines up perfectly. I think Councillor Sordaboom and I really enjoyed the stuff that you got into there, but I think more exciting for me, because I was kind of getting sidetracked in that meeting, was the 10-year vision that the mayors will hopefully be working on, because this sort of sets the foundation, but the real, I think, the real kind of how we get there is in the 10-year vision, because there's great stuff about, you know, parking management, but there's no real of implementation tools in this. That'll be in the 10-year vision, I assume.
absolutely, yes, that's correct. Yeah, so we'll be launching the new vision, which will be coming shortly, and immediately following that will be the investment plan.
Cool. And also, thanks again for putting in the rapid bus service on Fraser Highway and putting in those bus lanes. So,
Absolutely, thank you.
Paul, or Councillor Alpert, go ahead.
Yes, and yeah, it is good to see you in person. It's always nice. I prefer that myself. Speaking of climate action and change and so on, I'm hopeful that a component of this strategy will be the shipping of goods and removing of these trucks and those types of vehicles off our road networks and trying to incorporate that into. I know they can be conflicting services with public and goods, but I think there's got to be some synergies there that can be used to effectively affect some real substantial change in the region. So, thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. Very good point there, Councillor. And we are, a significant component is goods movement in the region, and we are working with the local goods movement service providers in this process, and you will see a component of that in the final Transport 2050 document.
One more? Thank you again, Madam Mayor and Mr. Gonzalez. I can tell you that transit's improved significantly during my time here in Langley City, especially over the last 10 years. It's amazing. But I still have to ask the classic question that we ask when TransLink representatives come here. Did you drive or did you take the bus?
So I'll answer that very openly and honestly. I did drive, but an e-vehicle. Does that make a difference?
Okay, you can score for that. Thank you very much. Thank you again for coming this evening.
Well, soon you'll be able to take the SkyTrain all the way here.
Absolutely.
So it's all good.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Don't see anything. Thank you so much. Take care. Okay, the next upcoming meetings, the regular council meeting November 1st, 2021, time and location format are to be determined. And the next regular council meeting after that is November 22nd, 2021, time and location and the format to be determined. As council will be considering the regular council meeting schedule for the remainder of this year, later into 2022 later in this meeting. So, and up next we have an recreation update with Kim Hilton, our Director of Recreation, Culture and Community Services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council and our viewing audience. I just want to say first that Vincent used to be one of our Parks and Rec employees. He used to work at Nickelmackle and do a whole bunch of different programs for us, so it was kind of nice to see him. It's been a while. Okay, he actually hasn't changed that much either. All right, so recreation update for October. I did mention this last time, Eccentrics, and it's a group fitness training program running on Thursdays at a Tim's Community Center starting the 18th of November, 8:45 to 9:45. So you're getting up early, but you're getting active, which is great. It is $45 plus GST for the 6 sessions, and you can phone 604-514-2940 or log on to langleycity.ca to get more information. And I'm happy to say that our Tim's Games Room is open again, and we are slowly getting people coming out. Just want to remind people that we do have a wide variety of activities, and it's only $10 for the year. You can use the games room and the fitness track. And the games room is open from 8:30 to 10 on Monday to Fridays, 8:30 to 6 on Saturdays, and Sundays it's 8:30 to 8. On Saturdays after 6 p.m., it becomes our youth hub, or our youth time in our facility, so this gets well used by the youth as well. So you can see we have table tennis, we have billiards, we have air hockey, foosball, 3 different kinds of gaming devices, and then lots of board games, cards, shuffleboards, puzzles, and that sort of thing. So there's lots to do and lots to have fun with. Our Get Up and Go, our next program is starting November the 2nd. It runs Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have 2 different levels. And this is really in collaboration with the Fraser Health Falls Prevention Initiative and OsteoFit. And we're trying to really grab those individuals who are working towards improving their strength, balance, and coordination. Often they'll be starting out sitting on chairs and building that strength. So it's a great entry level to get back up and running, getting up and going. To register, you can phone 604-514-2940, or again, you can log on to our Langley City website at langleycity.ca. New to us is Mentor a Youth, and our youth programmer, Taryn, is just phenomenal. And he's been working on this. Really, he's based it off of the Big Brothers, Big Sisters model. And in fact, we are working with them. They are our mentors in this program. And if you're interested in becoming a mentor to a youth, please reach out to Taryn, our youth programmer, at Taryn Kingsbury at langleycity.ca, or you can phone him at 604-514-2999, and he will partner or pair you up with a youth who is interested in having a big buddy or a mentor. Prenatal Yoga, so this is a group fitness training. It runs on Sundays here at Tim's Community Center for November and December. It's a great way to practice your breathing, be calm, keep flexible, improve your balance and posture, and it's very relaxing and time alone for the mums to be. So that's a great opportunity. Again, if you're interested, you can phone 604-514-2940. And just a reminder that our facility hours here at Tim's Community Center, we're open from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday to Friday, Saturdays 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., and Sundays and stats, most stats were open, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And just to mention that our gymnasium and walking track will be closed starting November the 8th. We do have funding to refinish the floor and reline the floor in the gymnasium. Unfortunately, fortunately, during COVID, we were using that space for our fitness programs, which was great. It was huge. We had lots of space. But now we do have to close it likely until January the 4th, by the time all the fumes and everything settle down. But we will keep people updated and posted on our Langley City website. I would hope that perhaps the walking track could open earlier, but we have a lot of people that are very sensitive to smells and fumes, so we'll keep you posted on that. And that's my presentation for October.
Great, thank you very much. You and your staff doing fantastic work all the time. Councillor Storteboom.
Oh, thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Hilton. Always good to receive your reports, very professional and showcasing a lot of terrific activities in our community. I'm just going to go back to the eccentrics one more time. That was 5 sessions at $45 each, or $45 for all 5?
That's $45 for 5 sessions. That's the total cost plus GST.
That's amazing value for anybody who wants, you know, exercise in a social setting and good value at the same time. You got to jump all over that. You're amazing in the programs that you and your team put together. Thank you very much for your report and all the work that you do.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here in person doing this.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Can I ask a question before we move on to bylaws? Or maybe as part of bylaws, it's just a quick question. So we have like 9 of them, and I know in some municipalities they can pass things on consent. And since they're all final reading, is it possible to just pass them on consent unless someone wants to pull them to discuss?
No,
And-
I think we're
or
going
do you
to
have to
read
read
them
through
all.
all of them?
We will read them all individually.
But just from a clarity standpoint, is that possible to do?
Yes, with a unanimous consent of council, I'm sure you could take them as read and do a motion to that effect. But yes, it would have to be with the full agreement of council.
Pardon? Oh, I just know some
That's it.
municipalities do that, but I guess you're not, you want to read them all out, so that's fine.
Yes.
Okay.
We discussed that earlier, actually, me and Ms. Kenny, when we were going over, and we had talked about these, just reading them out individually, because I asked the same question actually earlier. Yeah, so. Okay, bylaw 3139, bylaw notice enforcement bylaw, final reading of a bylaw to govern enforcement of bylaw notices within the city of Langley. That the bylaw cited as bylaw notice enforcement bylaw 2021, number 3139, be read a final time. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Storteboom, Councillor Pahal, any discussion? Call the vote. All those in favor? Carries. Bylaw 3158, Highway and Traffic Regulation Bylaw Amendment, final reading of a bylaw to amend the Highway and Traffic Regulation Bylaw as required to align with the bylaw notice enforcement bylaw. That the bylaw cited as Highway and Traffic Regulation Bylaw 2013, number 2871, Amendment bylaw number 5, 2021, number 3158 be read a final time. Get a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sturdivant, Councillor Pahal. Any discussion on that? Call the vote. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Carries. Bylaw 3171, fees and charges bylaw amendment. Final reading of a bylaw to amend the fees and charges bylaw is required to align with the bylaw notice enforcement bylaw. That the bylaw cited as fees and charges bylaw 2010, bylaw number 2837, amendment number 29, 2021, number 3171 be read a final time. Councillor Albrecht, Councillor James, any questions or discussion on that? Call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Bylaw 3126, subdivision and development servicing bylaw. Final reading of a bylaw to establish the standard of works and services to be provided for the subdivision development of lands. Motion that the bylaw cited as City of Langley Subdivision and Development Servicing Bylaw 2021, number 3126, be read a final time. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Albrecht, Councillor Sturdivant. I do have a question for staff on this. It was indicated that most items would be grandfathered. Is that an indefinite time? Or can I just get some clarification on that, please? Mr. Gill?
If you could please elaborate your question.
So, my understanding that certain items are grandfathered under this bylaw.
From the previous one?
From previous.
Yes, correct.
So, is that indefinite? Or if let's say, it's a good example of it. Is there any way it would be changed if somebody came forward, if they were changing something? Does that make sense? Is that too general of a question?
Well, it's like any other bylaw. The items that actually we transferred from the previous one to this one
Okay.
will stay like the other parts of the new bylaw. So unless sometime in the future there would be an
There's a
amendment
repeal or
and council approves that, all those procedures have to go through in order to change any part of this bylaw.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted clarification. I had a resident ask, and I said, as far as I know, it's grandfathered. So, okay, great.
Correct.
Thank you. Councillor Albrecht?
I was just going to add that this is just for new subdivision or new development.
Yes.
So after this is passed, they would be they would be required to follow the new bylaw.
The new bylaw.
Unless they're already in process, that would be grandfathered more than
Is
likely.
that's the, and that's,
Yeah.
okay, thank you. I just wanted that clarification
Correct, yes.
before. Okay.
Those that have already started, they will use the old bylaw.
Sorry, just for clarification, just so, because if someone's asked you specifically about an issue, like related to being grandfathered, are you able to provide the specifics of what the example is? I just want to make sure they're given the right information.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with, I'm okay with the information I've received, but thank you for,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Bylaw 3182, Highway and Traffic Regulation Bylaw Amendment. Final reading of a bylaw to amend the Highway and Traffic Regulation Bylaw as required to align with the new subdivision and development servicing bylaw. Motion that the bylaw cited as Highway and Traffic Regulation Bylaw 2013, number 2871, Amendment Bylaw number 4, 2021, number 3182 be read a final time. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sturdivant, Councillor Pahal. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Wonderful. Bylaw 3187, Municipal Ticket Information System Amendment Bylaw. Final reading of a bylaw to amend fees in the Municipal Ticket Information System as required to align with the new subdivision and development servicing bylaw. That the bylaw cited as Municipal Ticket Information System Bylaw number, 2846, Amendment number 18, 2021, number 3187 be read a final time. Mover and a seconder, Sturdivant and Pahal. Any discussion? Call the vote. All those in favor? and that carries. Bylaw 3176, fees and charges bylaw amendment, final reading of a bylaw to amend fees and charges for various services offered by the City of Langley as required to align with the new subdivision and development servicing bylaw, that the bylaw cited as fees and charges bylaw 2010, bylaw number 2837, amendment 28, 2021, number 3176 be read a final time. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Sturtevant, Councillor Albrecht. Any discussion on that? Call the vote. All those in favor? And that passes. Bylaw 3192, permissive tax exemption bylaw. Final reading of a bylaw to exempt certain lands and improvements from municipal taxation for the year 2022. That the bylaw cited as permissive tax exemption bylaw 2022, number 3192, be read a final time. Mover and a seconder, Wallace and Sturtevant. Any discussion? Councillor Martin.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I was unable to be here last meeting when we did first, second, and third reading. If I may, I'd just like to clarify some things with Mr. Light, and I hope that I don't catch him off guard. Is it correct that with these permissive exemptions, it adds 1.35% to our property tax levy? It says that in the report somewhere.
Yeah. That's correct. 1.35%.
So, and just a further clarification, and I want to make sure I get this right. In regards to the exemptions for churches, that amount is $186,424. The exemptions for nonprofit is $104,646.
Correct.
Okay.
For city-occupied properties.
Pardon me?
For city-occupied properties, 104.
Yeah. And the other is a total of $57,028.
Correct.
Okay, got that right. And the new exemptions is $75,210. Okay.
Correct.
Now, if I add all those up, I get $423,308 in tax exemptions.
That's
for,
correct.
And that only amounts to 1.35% property tax?
That's the city's portion of the exemption, yes. Of our property tax levy is 31,435,365. So the
Okay.
total of 423,000 is 1.35%.
Okay. So, I mean, you know, we go through this every single year. And I know that we have to give exemptions for the church building, just the property that the building stands on, not for parking lots and what have you, and we give that exemption. We've been doing that for years. I understand, you know, some of the city-owned occupied, yes, I understand that. I think that, I think we should be taking a more serious look at this. I mean, right before we do anything with our budget, there's a tax increase of 1.35%. So,
There will be a tax increase of 75,000, because that's new for 2022.
the new, but
Yeah.
the total.
Total,
The
yeah.
total is 1.35%.
Total tax effect.
If we gave no exemptions, 1.35 would come off the tax bill.
That's correct.
Correct. And, you know, I know Mr. Graham caught me on the way in today and told me what, you know, the increase for the just the RCMP is this year. And it's a lot. So, and I know I'm not going to change anybody's mind, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind, but I think this is something, I don't know if our taxpayers realize that they're the ones that are paying for these exemptions on these. And again, there's a lot that I totally understand. We did try a few years ago to, take the parking away from churches because that's a lot. But obviously that didn't work. There was a lot of churches that showed up. And I guess the other thing that concerned me, and I'm sorry to bring in all this now, but I just want to have my say before we pass final reading, is the new limit of $75,000, I think is way too high. The highest tax break that we have new is $63,000, I believe, for the ladies auxiliary, or penny pinchers, $63,000, is it?
I believe it's Roman Catholic Church
Is it yeah, you're right, the Roman Catholic Church. So,
$63,795.
I don't understand, why we wouldn't limit this to even $65,000. That still gives them their tax break. But so what this allows is that if their property keeps going up in years, we'll be looking at a $75,000 exemption. So, and again, that's for church and parking lot. This is a difficult subject, to bring up to a lot of the people that are receiving it. And I think, your recommendation 2 weeks ago was not to allow the new exemptions. Had I been here, I would certainly have voted in favor of that because I think we really have to. The bottom line is our taxpayer, and they're the ones that are paying for this. So those are my comments. I'm not going to change anybody's mind, not trying to. I just wanted to make my comments prior to final reading. Thank you.
Councillor Hall, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I guess Mayor to staff. I know you talked about the 1.3%, which is good, but as far as the new ones that council approved last time we met, is that 0.3% is my understanding?
0.24.
0.24%, okay. I just wanted to be clear. I know it doesn't change your mind, but that's the difference this year, and I'll speak to the other policy later.
Okay, any other comments from anybody else on the permissive tax exempt? Councillor Wallace.
I kind of do, and I just thank you, Councillor Martin, for your comments, and sorry that you missed the meeting. I guess when I look at it, we just, like this evening, we had somebody come and speak about our homeless issue and how great of an issue it is right now. And I think we look at the denominations that are actually helping a lot of our homeless and a lot of these other organizations that we did support through this tax exemption are actually, so I don't know how, I think it's the way that we present it out into the public when it comes to talking to the citizens, because I think that's the way I look at it, is that it's going to help the community. So, I mean, that's how I get by. I know it's a lot of money, and it is hard to wrap your head around when it's that much money, but I think when it comes to looking after people and all of the social issues that we are facing now and will continue to face, I think we're doing a good thing. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Excuse me? May I?
Yep,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. And yeah, thank you for council's consideration of these permissive tax exemptions. I can honestly say that the new tax exemptions that were permitted by consensus, by unanimous vote in our last meeting, were well-founded and long overdue. I have to say that the Langley Food Bank is the only food bank in Metro Vancouver that still pays property taxes. So we're really breaking the glass ceiling on this one. And I want to thank council for supporting us in that, because the Langley Food Bank supports our community and has for over 30 years. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sturtevant. I will echo that sentiment. In this day and age with COVID, and families are trying to survive, and more ending up at the food bank, unfortunately. I think it's the right time. And what I would say is that all these permissive tax exemptions have been on the books for a very long time. And council's had the chance over the last 30 years to change these and haven't. So I think these are good new additions. So I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that carries. All right, on to council procedure bylaw. Final reading of a bylaw to adopt a new council procedure bylaw, that the bylaw cited as council procedure bylaw 2021, number 3193, be read a final time. Councillor Stortaboom, Councillor Bahal, all those in favor? Oh, any discussion? Sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Martin.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I just want to clarify a couple of things. It actually, but I'll make a comment first. Out of a 388-page agenda, it amazes me that somebody could hone in on the fine print and make postings on Facebook about council secret ballot voting for council. Totally had no idea what they were saying. So to clarify, Ms. Kenny, the secret ballot is only allowed when we're appointing a council member to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, the Union of BC Municipalities, the Lower Mainland Local Government Association, and any perhaps outside agencies that we would appoint a council to.
Through the chair to Councillor Martin, yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Can you give me the rationale of why we're doing this in secret ballot?
It's actually the appointments to the Metro Board and to the Fraser Valley Regional Library are done by vote like that. So it was considered best practice for these kinds of what can be sensitive votes, and as a way of making sure that the meeting is kept efficient and effective.
Right. So since 1955, we've been doing it by hand, and now we're going to secret ballot.
And that is only if there is a vote of council who wishes to do that. If council doesn't vote to do that, you can certainly do it any way you want. This is just an option for council.
Okay,
It's not a
thank you for clarifying
requirement.
that. But I just want to make sure that, anybody that reads these so-called know-it-all Facebook posts, that we are not looking to have all our votes done by secret ballot, only certain things if we allow it.
No, and it's certainly just up to council whether they wish to utilize that, but to have it in the bylaw in case they want to utilize that for those specific votes.
Those specific votes. I mean, we couldn't, on a development, we couldn't use secret ballot, right?
No.
So I just wanted to clarify that. It's unfortunate that, I guess Facebook's good for a lot of things, but it's also bad for misinformation, and that's certainly what happened with this post. Thank you very much.
Councillor Bahal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I guess to follow up to Councillor Martin's point, but I think secret vote sounds a little bit more sinister than it actually is. So even if you do vote for, say, I wanted to serve on a board and Councillor Martin wanted to serve on a board, people would vote for who they want on a board. But then a motion of council in a public meeting with hands raised would pass those like we've done in the past where we get the list, right? So it's not like we're secretly appointing people. All of council still needs to publicly put their hands up at the list of people to represent. Just for clarity, so it's not like there's some sort of secret you don't know who voted for the group of individuals.
Through the chair to Councillor Pahal, yes, that's correct, and the proper term is a vote by ballot.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Councillor Stortaboom.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for this discussion. I have to say that I don't feel threatened by a paper ballot. It was the paper ballot that got me elected to this chair. I think that when it comes down to secret ballots, because they are specifically for appointments, it identifies that there's a matter of personality to be considered here. There are some of us who, really want something badly, and we have to be, careful not to upset the rest when these ballots are being taken. So I think it's a matter of just protecting everybody, and I think it's good practice, quite honestly. So thank you very much for this discussion, and I'll be supporting the bylaw. Thank Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Okay, so the 2022 schedule and format of upcoming regular council meetings. Motion that the following dates be set for the regular council meetings of council in 2022. January 10th and 24th, 2022, February 7th and 14th, 2022, March 7th, 2021. Sorry, March 7th and 21st, 2022, April 4th and 25th, 2022, May 9th and 30th, 2022, June 13th and 27th, 2022, July 11th and 25th, 2022, September 19th, 2022, October 3rd and 24th, 2022, November 7th and 21st, 2022, and December 5th and 12th, 2022. And effective November 2021, unless otherwise resolved by council, regular council meetings will be held electronically via video conferencing technology at 3 p.m. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Bahal, Councillor Albrecht. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries. All right, repealing pavement cut policy, CO-57, that pavement cut policy number CO-57 be repealed. Mover, or Councillor James and Councillor Bahal, any discussion? Call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carries. All right, permissive tax exemption revision FM-11, that City Council adopt the revised permissive tax exemption policy FN-11 to introduce limits on the total dollar value of permissive tax exemptions. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sturteboom, Councillor Wallace, any discussion? Councillor Bahal, and then Councillor Sturteboom.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a policy I support. I think we're at 1.2% this year, and likely it'll be 1.3% next year. Just a question for Mr. Light. Once we hit that limit, will each of the people who receive a permissive tax exemption be scaled back equally, or how will that work?
It's actually 1.4%.
Oh, sorry, 1.4%, which we may hit next year anyways.
Yeah. So currently, for the current year, it's 1.35% for all the different tax exemptions that we provided. So yes, if we met that threshold, then we would be scaling it back on a proportional basis.
Okay, thank you very much.
Based on assessed value.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to the person who dreamed this up. I don't think it's a bad idea. I like the idea of having that bumper in place so that council can anonymously bump up against it and say, oh, that's as high as you go, that you got your taste, you filled your boots, that's about as good as it gets. So I like the idea. I think it's very clever in how it's been brought forward. Not sure who it was, but it was a good idea in my opinion. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I support it.
I think it was our very smart staff that might have suggested it. Okay, any other discussion on that? Call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Streetscape container garbage and recycling audit results and next steps. That the report from the Director of Engineering, Parks and Environment dated October 18th, 2021 regarding streetscape container garbage and recycling audit results and next steps be received for information. Councillor Wallace, Councillor Bahal, and who would like to go first? Councillor Wallace and then Councillor Bahal.
Thank you. That was a thorough read of why we need a waste management person in the city of Langley. I'm not going to be alarmed. We're not supposed to talk about it, are we? Are we allowed to talk about it or ask questions, or is that okay? Yeah. Yeah. I thought you would have gone through it, but I guess it's just we're receiving it for information. I know the environmental task group, which Councillor Albrecht and myself chair, this is a big concern for the task group. I'm not alarmed with the amount of dog waste, and I think that's a concern in going forward, and something that we need to look at, and how we manage that. I would have liked, and I know it's hard when you have to pick certain areas, and the downtown area was a good area to pick because of the amount of businesses and restaurants. I think I would have liked to go to Bryden Lagoon area where there's all the new developments. I think that would have been a good pilot project, because there's been a lot of complaints about not enough areas for garbage receptors. But yeah, and then another point is that when it comes to bottles and being able to calculate how many cans and bottles are recycled, I think that's a hard measure to get, because there are people that actually go into those containers and get those bottles and cans out, and it would be, I think it would be good to look at a way of doing that in more of a sophisticated way for people that are needing to do that for their income than having to reach into those containers. And yeah, I think that the fact that we have 3 different types of containers, or might even be 4 different types of containers, is a bit confusing, and that showed up on the data as well. So, but all in all, it was very well done and very well broken down. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I guess to staff, first of all, it was really good to see that residents here clearly do want to do the right thing. You saw that in the results. But more interesting is, what's the best practice for pet waste? Because that was like 50% of the garbage stream, basically. So what would we, regardless of where we go with budget next year, that seems to be one we want to address? Yes? No?
For sure, it definitely is a big percentage of the waste in the streetscape containers. The recommended method is to deal with it in the sewage treatment plant. So for people either to flush it or for the municipalities to collect it and bring it to the treatment plant and be treated. So that would be the most kind of environmentally sound way of dealing with it, rather than it going into landfills and creating methane gas, etc.
So I guess to follow up, is that stuff that will be considered if we pass the next study?
Definitely will be considered,
Okay,
yes.
cool, thanks.
Okay, great. Any other questions or comments? Great report. Call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries. Pilot program evaluation, consumption of liquor in parks and public facilities. That council received the report from the Chief Administrative Officer dated October 12, 2021 regarding pilot program evaluation, consumption of liquor in parks and public facilities for information. Mover and a seconder. Albrecht and Storteboom, any discussion? Councillor Pahal and then Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And to CAO Chung, you said based on the experience from the pilot project, the city may consider running the program in 2022 or on a permanent basis. When would that conversation be occurring?
Through the chair to Councillor Pakal, yeah, that was just an option that council could pursue. What I would do is bring a report back to council early next year to seek direction from council, whether to do it on a permanent basis or follow the same parameters as in the pilot program, or make some hybrid system. So I'll bring that back in early January and then set some direction for introducing a bylaw, if that's where council wants to pursue, and then go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Wallace.
Thank you for the report. I do have some concerns, and I think I've expressed them before, and I have concerns in the Douglas Park area for doing this liquor consumption. And the extension of another day for me would be something I would not like to see. I think it's suited well in City Park. There's just so many problems down in this area and in Douglas Park, and the comment about Al-Anon. That's a fair, I think it was Al-Anon, or what is it?
Mhm.
Sorry, that's a really fair comment. They're right across the street from the park, and you know, people struggling with alcoholism as a disease. It's that temptation. Yeah, I'm really struggling with the Douglas Park community area. I mean, I like it when we have our events, and like when Bard in the Valley did their event and they closed it off. I just feel it gives that little bit of, you know, safety and privacy. So, and just moving forward, I don't know how we can address some of those concerns.
Councillor Stortebom?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I just wanted to say that I look forward to receiving that report in the spring, but I'd also like to know if we can have that be accompanied by any correspondence or feedback from the residents or the public in the immediate area, because I've heard some people say positive things and some say less than positive things, and I kind of be curious what the overall consensus is for those who did choose to communicate with us. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Stortebom. I'd like to see comments as well. I think that would be very beneficial for us. Okay, Councillor Albrecht?
Yeah, I was just going to say, with budget deliberations coming up and next year's taxes, this may be a program that doesn't see support, right?
Well, we'll review it in the new year, so when it comes. Okay. Any other comments? No? Call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motions, notions, and notices of motions. 2021-2022 deputy mayor appointments, that the 2021 to 2022 deputy mayor rotation be appointed as follows. November 1st to December 31st, 2021, Councillor Albrecht. January 1st to February 28th, 2022, Councillor Bahal. March 1st to April 30th, 2022 is Councillor James. May 1st to June 30th, 2022 will be Councillor Stortebom. July 1st to August 31st, 2022, Councillor Wallace. And September 1st to October 31st, 2022 is Councillor Martin. Need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor James, Councillor Albrecht, any discussion? This just continues with the rotation we've had for the last 3 years, so call a vote. All those in favor? And that carries. All right, Councillor Albrecht, you are up with your motion on tandem garage moratorium.
Yeah, I'm running out of energy here, so I'm just going to keep it simple. I had a big thing all set up, but I can't do it. So I'm going to read this. A council place moratorium on tandem garages on new development applications, grandfathering any current applications until staff completes the parking management study report for council review, discussion, and adoption. And if there's a seconder, I will speak.
Councillor Wallace just seconded it,
Okay.
so go ahead, please.
So I guess my point here is that I think it's time that we've heard a couple of times here tonight already that staff are going to do conduct a parking strategy or parking management plan, and that's going to be forthcoming. But I think it was important to send a message that, whoa, you know, like we don't need any more of the tandem parking. There's times, there's places. We talk about affordability. Sometimes that is the proper arrangement, but not 100% through all development. What's wrong with no garages? What's wrong with open parking? You know, that's what I live in. It's not a big problem, right? So I think we need to have a look at this. I'm not 100% against all tandem parking, but I think we need to set limits on styles of parking, styles of development, styles affordability for our community, and it's about making that, I keep hearing affordability. I never get anyone give me a definition of what's affordable, right? Because it all depends on where you are in your life. But how about attainable? Like, people need to be able to attain housing in whatever form and move through that housing continuum. So let's explore different possibilities and let's have those conversations. And I think staff is preparing that and coming forward with it. So that's my point, and hopefully you'll support this for a month or two.
Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, through the mayor, to Councillor Albrecht. I just want to thank you for bringing this forward. I think it's really important, especially with the last development that we put through. I think it was a really difficult one, and the tandem parking was a big concern for me. I mean, affordability, I'm still waiting for that, the answer on what's affordability, especially when it comes to housing and living. I'm happy to see that we are going to be doing a parking strategy. I think it's so necessary. I think what's really difficult about affordability and time management for families is that we're, waiting. The SkyTrain isn't going to be here for a while. So I believe it's good to be developing, for the future, and because SkyTrain's coming, but what are we doing in the interim with helping families that, have to get a child from here and there, and they don't have the proper parking facilities. I mean, I'm all for the climate change, and of course we need to get the cars off the road and look at other ways of transportation, car sharing, so on and so on. I'm just, we're in this part where we have to plan for the future because we have to, and it's good that we are, but we're stuck with some of the stresses that families are facing when it comes to parking. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councillor Pahal, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Albrecht, for bringing this forward. And I definitely fully support the spirit of this. I am a little concerned about just like a blanket ban on tandem parking. I'm really struggling with that one. And I guess I'll ask staff this. The difference in cost right now between a tandem parking house and a double parking townhouse, do you know what that is roughly?
Yes, through the mayor to Councillor Pahal. I think that's something we can provide some specific details as part of our discussion with this. The options that staff are contemplating as part of the zoning bylaw update and the parking study, that would be part of that. Anecdotally, I've heard between $100,000 to $200,000 difference in the price of a townhouse, for example. Between a tandem and a double wide garage.
Yeah, thank you for that. And let's say this passes tonight. When, in your mind as a staff, would you consider the moratorium over? So what would be the thing that would trigger this moratorium to end in your perspective?
Yes, through the mayor to Councillor Pahal. What I would suggest is that, as you know, our OCP, our new OCP, is on the cusp of adoption, and staff, of course, we've been asked by council to update our zoning bylaw as well, and that's the next phase of work, and we're going to be coming forward to council with a series of modules reviewing parts of the zoning bylaw. And one of which is the key one is parking and loading, and the tandem discussion will definitely be a part of that with some recommendations, and of course there'll be a supporting study possibly that will be undertaken if the budget's approved on-street parking. I would estimate that our goal from a zoning bylaw perspective, dealing with off-street parking, we're wanting to bring forward a new draft zoning bylaw to council probably near the end of January, and probably do a month or two of public consultation, have a public hearing on it in April, and have that bylaw adopted hopefully should council want to move it forward, hopefully at the end of April, May. That's when we would have a new zoning bylaw. Now, it's also council's purview as well, and you have the authority to move another resolution, if you move a resolution tonight, to say that you're satisfied with whatever's come up with. But technically, an applicant can make an application. The Local Government Act does allow that. But I think if council does pass a resolution tonight saying we need to study this, we need to put a pause on it, that's a clear signal to developers. And I think as staff, we want to move options forward to council for your direction as soon as possible.
Just to follow up then, would council need to make another motion to rescind the moratorium in April if that's so what council chooses, or would it just happen?
Through the mayor to council, my sense is that once the bylaw is adopted with the rates, then it's the bylaw that's in effect. Council may wish to move an associated moratorium, but again, a moratorium is really just a signal. It's not binding.
Yeah. Cool. And I guess I'll just continue to follow up. And to me, again, I really struggle with it because, we may have a project that's all double, parking that comes forward, and that's a premium of $100,000 to $200,000, and that continues to bump the affordability. Now we're talking about $1 million townhouses, and I know we need a mix. We need, throughout the spectrum, and there's even places I was looking in Auckland, which is a very car-centric place, same population as Metro Vancouver, where they have townhouses with half the parking, so they'll have 40 units and 20 surface parking, right? Or carports. So I get that we really need to study what we're doing. So I really struggle with this one, but I just don't also want to make sure we end up with all, I'll call them luxury townhouses in the next 6 months, because that would not be good as well, since we're in a affordability thing. So I'm just struggling with it.
I'm going to go to Mr. Baumhoff first for a reply, and then Councillor Storterboom.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to raise the point regarding the motion where it talks about until staff completes the parking management study report. And there's it seems to me like there's two reports possibly here. One is the zoning bylaw and the review of parking requirements and the number of stalls that you're allowing per unit, et cetera, and the affordability question of what is the impact of this decision going to make on affordability of units, where the parking study that I've been referring to is more on-street parking, parking meters, permit parking, et cetera, not related to, affordability, tandem parking, all of that. So I wonder if some clarification might be necessary in regard to when staff, because this parking study I'm referring to, likely we won't get a budget approval, if that's council's desire, until March of next year. Then by the time we get the study done, you're probably looking at summer of next year, consideration of all these issues. So it could be a while. So whereas the zoning bylaw, I think, is a lot quicker. So that's happening a lot sooner. So it may be that you want that motion to be until staff completes the zoning bylaw review for parking management, and then that would be the result. So that'll be come back to you sooner.
It does say parking management study.
But I believe, Councillor Albrecht, your understanding was in reference to the parking study that I was talking about in the capital plan. Is that true or not?
Well, I just heard the parking study referred to.
Okay.
But my thought process is this is all tied to development,
Okay.
not on street.
Okay,
So-
maybe it's just clarification for me then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Clarification for all of us, apparently.
And quite frankly, I guess, sorry if I'm totally out of order here, but I'd be fine if someone wanted to put a percentage to a maximum percentage for each new development. Like a maximum of 20%, or something along that line. I just throw that out there.
Counselor Paul?
Just through the mayor to Councillor Albrecht, would you be fair if the wording was changed to the zoning bylaw is given final reading? Instead of, okay, could I put that just as an amendment, or I'd like to put that as an amendment if someone wants to second it.
Second, okay. Oh, sorry, Counselor James seconded it. Ms. Kenny?
I have nothing
Okay.
else to talk about that.
Okay, and what was the wording on that? So Ms. Kenny has it.
It's just adoption of the zoning bylaw. Yeah. I would say until council passes the zoning bylaw, right?
Okay. We want to vote on the amendment right now? All those in favor of the amendment? Or do we want any discussion on the amendment to change it to the parking? To the original motion or to the amendment?
Wait, so the
Right.
amendment being to look at just the zoning, not the parking. So I can't speak to the first,
No.
I can't speak to the first one because it's gone now.
No, it's still there.
It's still there.
Yeah,
So I can't speak to it because I understand the first motion intent, why Councillor Albrecht brought that to both of them, because developments or just that whole idea of when that resident spoke about permit parking, you know, that's gonna alleviate some other, like it just all kind of goes together for me, so am I out of order not to talk about that?
Did you want to reread the motion, the amendment, please? To the original motion? Thank you. Sorry. Or is there any way we can bring it up on the screen?
I'd have to type it out.
That's
But
okay.
Let me
Never mind.
just, okay, here. That council place a moratorium on tandem garages on new development applications, grandfathering any current applications until council passes the new zoning bylaw.
For
Clarification?
Just for clarification
Yeah,
purposes.
on the motion, yeah.
So I guess my opinion on this little change, the amendment, to me, it's like a friendly amendment. We're going to continue on with the moratorium until we get our zoning bylaw updated and we have that conversation about parking for new development into a more detailed conversation.
Yeah, that makes sense, that's,
Okay, so
Thank
I
you.
just,
thank you.
am I wrong with my understanding here?
No, that's right.
Okay.
That's how I understood it. Mr. Zhang?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think, we're just trying to clarify what we're doing right here. What we're doing right now is, parking issue for development is very all-encompassing, with on-street, off-street, permit parking, and all the things that we talked about tonight. What the amendment of this motion will do is essentially allow us to get back to council earlier, because we're looking at that issue through the zoning bylaw amendment, and that we can actually advance it to early New Year's to have some resolution about that. Whereas in the study that Mr. Baumhoff will be doing on the parking management study, will take into consideration of other issues like permit parking and other parking requirements. So we're dealing with one issue with this motion and then dealing with the bigger issue, overall issue with Mr. Baumhoff's study.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be brief. From what I've seen with other municipalities, the place where they regulate tandem parking is in the zoning bylaw.
Okay. Counselor Sturtevant?
thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and thank you for this discussion. I'll speak more about the tandem parking itself when we get back to the original motion, but I gotta say, I don't have this motion in my package or in my paper referencing anything about the parking study, so I don't understand the amendment to change it to the zoning bylaw. It's not in my package. Could you read it again?
So it's council place
Yeah.
clarifications until staff completes the parking management study report.
Thank you.
For council's review, discussion, and adoption.
Yeah,
The amendment just clarifies that a little more.
so my understanding was the original motion was to attach it to a moratorium until the parking study was completed, and now it's being changed to, but the parking study wasn't referenced in the original motion.
Well, I got the parking management study in the original motion. Well, what it should be tied to is.
Oh, I see it. I'm sorry, I see it. Yeah, I must be getting tired too. Yes, so that's being changed to the rezoning study. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the clarification. I'm not in favor of the resolution, so I'm not going to support the amendment.
Okay, any more discussion on the amendment? Go ahead, Councillor Martin.
Thank you. It'll probably tie into both of them, the original and the amendment. But in regards to the zoning, will we have some kind of a report on what this could mean? And I understand the intent of this, and I can't say that I disagree with it. But if we, even what we heard tonight from some of the delegates in regards to the bylaws that we were dealing with, parking was an issue. So we'll take the one that sort of prompted this, and that's the 53rd and 198th. If they didn't have tandem parking, they'd be out on the street, in all likelihood. I look at the townhouses on 201A Street, basically from, maybe 54th right up to Michaud. Most of them have tandem parking. So I guess what I'm saying in the report, what ramifications could it have? And again, I don't disagree with what we're looking at here, but is it gonna push more parking onto the street because they can't put it on their property? Or are we going to look at, instead of tandem parking, as Councillor Albrecht has suggested, have open space parking? Would that be something that would be included in your zoning report?
Through the mayor to Councillor Martin, I think that when we bring forward options for council's consideration and direction back to staff, we would identify pros and cons. We would also look at what's happening in other municipalities,
Yeah.
close to us, and I think there's a number of factors to look at, and it's the affordability is one, its effect on parking, on-street parking, that sort of thing. Some of the factors are a little bit harder to pin down, but I think the strongest, policy foundation we can bring forward for comparison is what other municipalities are doing that are, experiencing a lot of townhouse development. And this isn't uncommon, this issue. A lot of municipalities have considered this issue and come up with maximum percentages as they've moved forward.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on this? Okay, so we are voting on the amendment to include passes the new zoning bylaw, is that right? Okay, on the amendment, all those in favor? Any opposed?
I'm opposed.
To the motion or the amendment?
The amendment. I'm opposed to the motion too. I'm opposed to both.
Okay, so I'm gonna call the vote on the original motion with a,
If I may. Great. I think it's really important we discuss this because we are talking about people's affordability, so we should give it its due process. So I was talking to Councillor Albrecht here, and I said, he mentioned sort of like what percentage, and I think, for me, and it's not just about me, but I think representing that affordability component for now, he was sort of saying 20% could be tandem. So I'll just throw out a motion here that we amend it to say that council placed a moratorium on new development applications to only allow up to 20% of off-street parking to be tandem parking, grandfathering any current applications until staff complete the zoning bylaw, etc. I don't know if you would, yeah. Anyways, I'll just put that there.
Did anybody want to second that? All right. I would say that's a no.
Nice try.
Okay. I'll call the vote on the amended.
On the amended? Or on the?
The original motion as amended. All those in
Wait,
favor?
I've got something to say about the original motion. Is that-
Okay.
Are we voting on that right now?
Yeah, did you want to say something before we vote?
Yes, very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your intention. I hate tandem parking. I think it's a nuisance. But quite honestly, when it comes to affordability, tandem parking makes it available for young families to be able to afford a townhouse, because side-by-side parking takes up more square footage, and there's where the cost of the townhouse increases significantly, because as we know, the cost is in the land, it's not in the building anymore. So when it comes to affordability, I can't afford 2 cars, but I wouldn't mind having that space behind my car in a tandem garage, if I could afford a house with a tandem garage, so that I could have a motorcycle there someday as a recreation vehicle. The fact is, it's a matter of personal choice, and some families are willing to have to shuffle their cars back and forth every day in order to have a townhouse where they can have a little green space for their kids. So it's a matter of personal preference, in my opinion. And if we're going to be regulating tandem parking, then we should probably get into regulating what people can store in their tandem parking too, because not everybody uses that back space for a car. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's a matter of freedom of choice. If you can't afford a townhouse with a side-by-side garage, you'll be happy to have a townhouse with tandem parking. So I'm sorry, I appreciate your intention. I hate tandem parking, but I can't support it because it's not a free market option for me. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, through the mayor, to Councillor Sturtevant. Thank you for pointing a lot of those good points out. I think, speaking to this motion, the reason this motion came about, for me, what I'm thinking with that development that we passed on 198 and 53rd, the reason why there was tandem parking is because they wanted to crowd a property, and that's the only way they can do it. So that would be my concern. My concern would be that the tandem parking was there so that you could take a piece of land and put so much on a piece of land. So that's where I kind of feel like we need to still look at tandem parking. But I do respect and understand your points.
Okay, I think we can call the vote on this, and I'm going to. I appreciate the motion as well. I think people need a freedom of choice if they want tandem, and we need a variety. So I will call the vote. All those in favor of this motion with the amendment? And all those opposed? So we had, who was opposed? I was opposed, Bahal opposed, James opposed, Martin opposed, and Sturtevant opposed. And that fails. Sorry, but great conversation. Great conversation, which will get us going in the next. No. Okay, on to the last item on our agenda today, correspondence. We received Waste Reduction Week in Canada, October 8th to 24th, October 18th to 24th, 2021, a letter from Recycling Council of BC. And we also received a provincial response letter dated July 27th, 2021, Council motion improvement to pre-hospital care system. Can I get a motion to receive these two pieces of correspondence? Counselor Wallace, Counselor Stoderboom. Sure.
Yes, just to the Waste Reduction Week in Canada. It is the 18th today. So we are starting that. Just in recognition, I was wondering if it would be possible to have something put on the website in regards to Recycling Council of BC, just for some information so that we're honoring it and we're doing something.
Yes, I will make sure that happens. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Baumhoff. All those in favor of receiving the 2 pieces of all right, nobody opposed, no new business. Motion that the meeting adjourn. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Counselor James, Counselor Bahal, all those in favor, and that carries.